So we've made it up to our property, and we are now having to ferry the stuff from the car into the property on the back of the truck. And yes, I am carrying bear protection. We saw so many bears on our way up here on the Cassiar. I stopped counting them after a while. But yeah, there's a lot of black bears, no grizzlies. I mean, there's grizzlies around too, but you just don't see them as much. So I'm walking down to our little cabin, which is kind of where we land when we get here, before we can start hauling stuff into the main cabin. It's a cabin that we leave so that if other people discover it, but there's nothing valuable there that we would miss if somebody wrecked it or stole it. So I'll take you with me along the trail. You can see the lake sparkling down there through the trees. I'm carrying Gracie in a backpack on my back, and she can go down and hang out in the cabin while we deal with stuff at the truck. This is Gracie's very first time up here because she's only a year old. So she's going to have all kinds of new experiences here. Hopefully a lot of that will be catching mice. You can see the cabin through the trees. There's the outhouse right there. So there's the outhouse, and there's the cabin on the lake. This is an upright log cabin. We put a new roof on it 6-7 years ago, and it's a great place to spend a few nights when we're having to pack stuff up. Anyway, that's the lake. There's Freddie running to the lake. Yeah, it's a bit of a mess because that's what happens when you leave things. But we'll get it cleaned up, and I'm going to go and check inside. That's a bear-proofed window. Dogs are running around like crazy things. Our little sign, because we've come here before after having left a bunch of firewood for our use, and it's all gone. Thanks, people. Anyway, I'm gonna open the door. There's a double bunk there. And a double bunk up there. We insulated the ceiling. You can see right there that some insulation has gone from between the logs, so we're gonna have to redo some stuff. And it's definitely been invaded by creatures. You can see something has chewed out that counter there. I don't know when that happened, if that happened since I haven't been up or just this year. It's pretty gross. So I do a lot of cleaning. That's It's not mouse poop. It's probably squirrel poop. But yeah, it's right there. Some of the stolen insulation. There's the view of the lake out the window. And there's all the poop. Yuck. Gross. So yeah, I'm gonna be doing some cleaning. Besides the size of the poop, you can also tell it was squirrels who got in here and had a party because of this. This is just an egg carton thing for starting fires. This is actually a crib board, but right there. You can see, I'll take it outside so you can see better. These are mushrooms. And the squirrels pick the mushrooms and they store them inside things, and sometimes they store them inside our cabins. We have found our boots full of mushrooms. We found mushrooms in the wood pile, and this one they filled up the dish bin. So you can see how many are in there. Look how many mushrooms are in there. That's like half full of mushrooms that some little squirrel has worked very hard to collect and store away for winter. I could just take these out and dump them, but what I tried to do is put them somewhere where it's a little bit protected outside and they can find them. So I'm probably going to put these under the cabin. So all his work is not in vain. He still has them to enjoy this winter. Little squirrel monster. Here you can see where we jacked up the cabin because the ground here, you can see, is really mossy. It's quite soft and damp. So we jacked the cabin up. Bugs are flying in the face. And we put treated posts underneath, and we found some metal rails and put those underneath the floor as well, just to give it a little bit more of a life. So I'm going to put the mushrooms right back in here. So here's a nice pile of mushroom form. So I'm going to be spending some time cleaning up this mess and untangling Gracie because she keeps getting her leash tangled around everything. So yeah, so I'm going to clean up this mess because we're going to be spending the night in here, at least tonight, maybe tomorrow night as well. I'm not sure. Depends on how things go. I refuse to spend the night in here when it's all yucky. So that's my thing. I just have to clean it up. Anyway, I will clean that up. And I'm probably going to burn a bunch of stuff outside. So yeah, I'll show you what it's like when it's all cleaned up. Until we get our water from the lake, purify it. But this water in this lake is really quite nice and clean, and there aren't really any fish in it. But there are probably some muskrats. I don't think there's any beaver. But yeah, it's very pretty. One of the things we use, because it's mouse proof and squirrel proof, is these old metal trunks. And this one we keep in the little cabin. And I'll show you inside. There are dishes and beefaroni, there's coffee, some macaroni and cheese, some of those noodle cups, juice crystals. Yeah, so we just kind of keep a supply of stuff in here that can't be attacked. You can see right there is more mushrooms. And up here is some more mushrooms. And up here is some more mushrooms. A very quick tour of our little cabin. We call this the little cabin. When we bought the place, the cabins were already here. We have added to them. We put the new roof on. You can see this one is upright logs. It's very rough. We brought in the little sink and the cooktop, 2-burner propane cooktop, from an old tent trailer. And that makes it a lot nicer to cook in here. We put a new tin roof on and we insulated the ceiling with styrofoam. And you can see between the logs up there, that is pink insulation. But in some places, like up there, it's stayed really, really well. In other places, the mice and squirrels steal it. So we end up doing things like sticking foamies in there to fill in the holes where they have taken out insulation. And we've got some short logs up there in the rafters. See that one up there is actually a piece of a wool blanket, which I cut up to plug holes. This is another window that we put in, but we only take the board off the outside when we're going to be here for a while because we need to keep it covered up because of bears. The bears will break windows if they see stuff in the window, and they can smell stuff inside. We also put a new layer of flooring on here, which was, I think, wood we used from something else. So it's painted white there and gray there, and that's where it's leaked and it got underneath the metal trunk and rusted. We hauled in this humongous Blaze King wood stove, which is way too big for here, but when it's minus 40, you appreciate it. Also behind it, we've just got random pieces of tin and parts of an old cook stove to protect the back wall from the heat. And around here, there's Gracie. She's been enjoying exploring the cabin and outside. But we have a double bunk here. That's where Trev and I sleep. And when Zach was coming here with us, he would sleep up there. So I've cleaned all of the squirrel poo off of the shelves, and there was a whole big nest of stuff underneath there where they chewed up a white foam piece of foamy into teeny tiny little pieces and had a little nest underneath there. So yeah, that's about it for this little cabin. It really just tides us over while we need a place to stay when we get here, because sometimes we get here fairly late. Today we got here at like just after lunchtime, which was nice, but we're not in any rush. We've got lots of time to get settled in. Good morning. Having my cup of coffee. It's instant, but it is Starbucks, so it's not too bad. We spent our first night back on the property in the little cabin, and today we are going to be packing up a small load of stuff to take into the main cabin on the ATVs. We have 2 of them, but the trailers that we haul stuff in with are both out at the big cabin. So We are going to just take a few essentials out with us today, and we'll see what we'll find when we get there. Yeah, so I'm just busy closing up the little cabin and getting things packed up that need to go back up to our landing spot there. And it's actually starting to rain a little bit, which isn't going to be fun. Hopefully it doesn't stick around, but in the meantime, I'm just gonna finish my coffee and then start heading up to the truck. So the cabin is all cleaned up. Looks much better than it did when we got here, and we had a warm, dry place to sleep when we landed on our property. This cabin is now pretty much ready to be left, and I've got to get Gracie's backpack there. We hang things up on this wire line right here because mice can't climb on this, and so like there's a towel here that I was using for dishes. There's a wool blanket that we use basically for chinking between the logs. We basically just leave them on there just so the mice can't get them. And if we were going to be in here longer, we would take them down and hang them on the walls, but this is how we leave it.